and long, long after. I know you won't. Now kiss me.
You kiss each other passionately, ready to face the darkest dark. After all that you have been through, and all that you have done, all that you have become, the Aetheran lies in front of you. Divinity is yours to take, or to sacrifice. What you do next decides your own fate and the future of the world. What shall you do with Divinity?
And so it ended. A tale that began with my own ill-fated attempt to rid the world of the Godwoken. Dallas the Hammer, the secret eternal, purged the Godwoken and used the source to close the veil to the void. The world was saved. Statues in memory of the Godwoken who sacrificed their source were erected all across Rivellon. They would never be forgotten. The half-demon Malady took pity on the soulless, God-woken silent monks and brought them to the Hall of Echoes. There, from the scraps of their souls that remained, she restored them to life. Sorcerers no more, they lived out the rest of their lives, freed of the burden of being the God-woken, freed from the weight of the world. As for me, I was already free, and so were the others. The God-woken sacrifice severed the bond between the Sworn and the God-King. To atone for my sins, I spent the rest of my days taking care of the sick and elderly, telling the story of the God-woken, that the world may never forget the greatest heroes Rivellon had ever known.
Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. A silent monk. At least that's what you'd be if it weren't for Malady. Like I would about the return of the codpiece, that it's highly unfashionable. The man's a man, all too prone to the weaknesses of the heart. We've seen the results of his errors firsthand. I give it a week before he errs anew. Yes, well, that's to say, that's love, not... All right, you made a point. Besides, Lucian. Perhaps even a god deserves a second chance, even if he is a god without powers. As for myself, I'm counting on a second chance as well. Why, I mean my empire, of course. I intend to go home as soon as I can. After all, I've dragons to raise. There may be an accident. I do so long to see my palace again. To sit all day in perfumed shade, but above all, I long to be with Sadher. Long to... but before you... Remember how when we first met, I took you by the jaw to inspect your teeth? A while, not ages. Now, if you'll recall, you cut short my little questionnaire, leaving me still. I'm nothing if not a tolerant man who believes in individual... What say you?
Taken quite by surprise, he staggers back, blood dripping down his nostrils.
I take that as a no, then. Fair enough. But now use your words.
Malady stands tall and proud.
Ah, there you are. More than a silent monstrosity, less than a god. Where did I go wrong? Ugh. I'd been counting on sacrificing my health and happiness for a future god, you know. Never mind. I'll find it.
She fingers the mask covering her face. For a moment,
We've come a long way together. I did my best by you all the way. Sacrificed much.
She looks you up and down.
I guess this will have to do. Take a moment, why don't you? Relax. Enjoy. I certainly plan to do the same. The same way I do everything, of course. Demonic guile. Oh, I don't know. Around and about. Perhaps our paths will cross again. Until we find out.
The flaming hatchling bounces and cheeps out of Daddy! Daddy! Looky at me! It takes you a moment to realize the egg you've been carrying has hatched at long last. The chick trills contentedly and flaps its tiny feathers in recognition of a... Daddy! Lucia looks at you intently, as though searching for defects. She smiles. Fane is reading a volume of Cranley Hubert's famous
I see.
He glances up at you.
Well, well, there you are. A little leaner than when we first met, and a little less divided. As do I, it seems.
Fane looks back down to the book.
It could have been different. I could have saved them. I could have found a way. No. I imagine you can't. Or something. Then again, you are no average... So, what do you think you'll do, now that we live in a source-free world? I never thought I would wish for silence again. I hear there are some nice beaches in Rivellon'ı, though.
The skeleton hefts Hubert's...
I've been rereading this book. It's shit.
Fane tosses the book over...
If you have spent your life... You creatures have spent your lives trudging about this world, and you've grown blind to its miracles. Simply that to see the true... Take otters, for example. Or octopuses. Octopuses? Regardless. The world... Do you know? I suppose we are all sourced. But my people were sourced too. In a way, in you, I found a...
And I'm here, if just barely. Thank the gods or whomever for Melody. One can hardly get to the truth with
The shadow of a smile.
I'm glad to. I'll serve my people, but I won't forget what we shared. We love each other after all.
A kiss. And oh, how...
Let's do good. Both of us. No more swords, no more powers. Don't worry, darling. I know you have... Who knows? A nice cottage someplace quiet from the Halley and I. But a girl needs some fun, doesn't she? Reform my ways. How adorable.
Her eyes flick down to your mouth. She smiles coyly, then her mouth meets yours and devours you with predatory abandon. Somewhere in the recesses of your mind, you think you hear her voice sigh, mine. But that's
Something to remember me by, darling. It gives me almost as much pleasure to speak to you. I will always be an ally to those that carry... I am at the ready.
You look out to the endless beyond, and with a start, you realize where you must go next. At last, the world was at peace. As the races united behind Lucian, Arx remained the center of power. The ancient Lizard Empire opened its gates. The houses disbanded, and the Empire adopted a pluralist quasi-democracy. Anyone could vote for whoever they pleased. as long as the House of Shadows approved. With their queen dead and the Voidwoken gone, the dwarves held the greatest party in the history of dwarfdom. A new king took the throne, the local brewer. 6 days later, he was stabbed to death with a mutton fork. Lucian made amends to the elves. He gave them lands and vast riches from the coffers of the old divine order. But the elves never forgave him. They would not trust humans again. And in a dark forest on the far side of a desert, well beyond the high seas, the Black Ring came together once more. The island of Fort Joy, the old redoubt of the Source King Brachus Rex, was turned over to the people of Driftwood to use as they wished. They turned it into a holiday resort. Reaper's Coast prospered. The fisheries returned, and the fertile farmlands produced the greatest harvests the surviving farmers had ever seen. Blood Moon Island became particularly fecund, its soil producing the greatest crops. A particularly crimson-fleshed orange grown on the island became a delicacy across half the world. The Black Pit took fire. The oil there burns still. Driftwood became a centre of industry, trade and transport. Lohar the dwarf became mayor. His time in office was cut short by an unfortunate wound that spontaneously appeared on his neck. Lagan left his over-demanding wife and began a relationship with a local bard. In the spirit of loving generosity, he returned the ring to his now ex-wife. In a fit of rage, she threw it into the sea. You would never forget Dorothea's kiss. Dorothea herself left Driftwood for the ancient empire, ever in search of the perfect kiss. She never found it, although once or twice she came close. The nameless isle had vanished. Although only open water remained, by instinct ships would steer clear. None of the captains could articulate why. Arx became a great metropolis, famed for its prosperity, its culture, its diversity, and the willingness of its denizens to stab each other in the back for the slightest advantage. Young Han went into the theatre and became one of the realm's most popular actors. Almira and Mihaili settled down on the farm. The locals liked and respected Almira. She never wanted for help, and deals always fell to her favor. She presumed she had them in thrall. The truth was, they just liked her. With no new divine, Malady found herself in a predicament. She had an important problem to solve, but no ally strong enough to call upon, and so her search continued. Ahu the wizard became one of Lucian's most trusted advisors once more. He always knew that something had changed in the divine. He never discovered what that was, or if he did, he never said a word. Jehan the demon hunter found himself at a loose end, so he opened a museum of demonic artifacts. He made a fortune. With Lucian in power, Sahala took the elves away from the world. They grew strong once more amidst the trees of the regrown home forest. Only the new mother kept Sahela's plans for revenge from fruition. But the mother had a secret weapon. Tova, Sahela's mother, keeps Sahela's anger at bay. Lucian returned as divine, united the races, and became Lord Emperor of all Rivellon. Only Dallis knew that he was entirely powerless. Dallis and you. The Eternal, now known as Dallis, was a secret advisor to Lucian and to his successors. For eons she would walk in the world, and would outlive the peoples and all, and wander alone amongst the dying stars. His run-in with his daughter set Fane on a new path. He travelled Rivellon, recording the wonders he discovered, but always kept a socket peeled for signs of the Eternals. He hoped to find the wife he'd lost, but he never did. Then again, he's still looking. As the new mother, Sabine found a great forest and founded a new elven homeland. Elves flocked to her and worshipped her as a goddess. Sabine swore never to kill again, but once in a while she'd look at her needle and smile. The Red Prince came home a hero. With Sada, he had more dragons. Soon, Prince became Emperor, one who would not use his dragons for conquest. His realm knew peace, and the world did not burn. And then there was you. You returned to the world as one more human among many. Your future was yours to decide. Did you accept your new status with humility, or did you rebel? Only you know the truth. Only you know if you atone for your sins.